in this slide is how to be friendly to your fats and when and how fats go bad. So there's 6 things that hurt fats: light, heat, time, air, plastic bottles, and toxic exposures. Light, heat, time, air, plastic bottles, and toxic exposures. So what happens with light is that the UV rays come in and hit the double bonds of mono and polyunsaturated fats and damage them. So this is, and then it'll break, and then oxygen can bond with them. That's like oxidation, and that's how fats can go bad from light. So ideally you want to keep all your fats either in a dark cupboard or in a dark green or dark bottle, and just keep it away from light. The second thing is to avoid high heat. So some oils are more resilient to heat than others, like saturated fats are more resilient. There's an oddity: sesame oil is higher resilient to heat than similar than oils and in its similar unsaturated forms, because it's got a unique antioxidant that makes it more tolerant to heat. So what you want to do is avoid deep frying and prolonged high heat in cooking, and you want to avoid like when you go to restaurants and they like dunk, the potatoes or whatever into the vat of oil. It's like, let's just oil that's been heated and reheated and reheated and reheated. Like that's stuff you really want to avoid. Time. Oils go bad over time. The more saturated oils are the more stable of the oils, and the more unsaturated, the more unstable, because of those double bonds. That's what saturated means. Saturated means how many carbons are saturated on the oil versus double bonds. So if I've got a double bond, it can break and then have 2 hydrogens put here. That's saturated. But when light or heat, it can break these apart and make them looser, and then oxygen can bond and create oxidized oils. So time is really important here. So you really want to regularly use up and replace your oils, and you don't want liquid oils around for more than 6 months. Like, you really want to make sure you have turnover. So if you've got on your cupboard or whatever, like you got like a bottle of oil that's been sitting there for 2 years and it's got like this full and it's got this much space in it, it's in a plastic bottle, just throw it out. Please just throw it out and get a fresh bottle of oil, ideally in dark glass. Air will also damage oils, so you're going to want to keep oils tightly sealed from air, and if necessary, transfer to smaller glass containers when the oil runs low, because you got this much oil and this much air, it's going to be a problem. The other issue with oils is like dissolves like in chemistry, meaning water-soluble compounds dissolve in water and fat-soluble compounds dissolve in fat. So plastic bottles are made from petroleum, made from oil. So they will leach into your oils. And as a general rule, the softer the plastic, the more it will leach into oils. So those clear plastic bottles of oil in the store where light can hit it, and they've been there for a while, and the soft plastic, it's just leaching all of these toxic chemicals and estrogen disruptors into the oil. So I recommend that you buy oils in dark green glass containers, or there are some, quote, food safe hard plastics, but just my preference is always glass over plastic, even if it's hard plastic. And I recognize that hard plastic is really useful for shipping large amounts of oil. I get that because glass is easy to shatter. So yeah, it's just kind of a trade-off there. But you want generally the harder the plastic, the safer it is to prevent leaching of oil. And the last thing is toxic exposure. We've mentioned this before. You really, really, really want to buy oils that are organic because, again, the insecticides, the pesticides, the petrochemicals, the industrial chemicals, the solvents like hexane and the heavy metals, they all dissolve into fat. And you just don't want to expose yourself to more toxic chemicals than you need to, because we're already surrounded by toxic chemicals, whether it's in the air or it's in water or just off-gassing from carpets and paint. Look, you really want to minimize toxic exposure. So do prioritize your money on organic, clean fats.